Our topic is for dehorning and castration of food animals. This is Group 8, Section number Animal Sign 67 by Sarah Stevens, Adonari Rios, Alexis Honeycutt, Madeline Viz, Animals and Society. I am Adonari and I will be talking about the history and background, why we dehorn animals. Farmers still dehorn cattle because the advantages often outweigh the disadvantages. Some reasons farmers may dehorn their cattle is because horned cattle can pose a danger to the farmer and equipment, as well as for other animals in the year. Horned cattle can often be more aggressive than those without horns. Horns can often grow back into their head, causing injury or death. It also can affect them by getting stuck in fences or in vegetation plants, and it can also cause death or a risk of their health. Reports from southern states consistently find that dehorned calves sell $1.50 or $2 per 100 weight than horned calves. This is thought to be because horned cattle typically have a negative effect on the rest of the herd they are fed with, as the horns can cause injury and bruising, especially during transport. Why we castrate animals. It reduces aggression towards any other animal. It can prevent injuries, and also it has to affect the meat taste. So the higher quality grade, more consistent, marbled and tender beef can be, and it can also decrease the number of dark cutters due to high muscle pH. The ethical aspects. The American Veterinary Medical Association states dehorned cattle are less likely to suffer bruising, inflict injury to the others, flanks or eyes of other cattle, or injure horses, dogs, and handlers. Not only does it affect the dehorned animal, but as well as other animals and people that are surrounded by them. And so that's why if they don't have their horns, they cannot injure any person or any other animal.
My name is Madeline Viss, and I will be talking about the sociological and cultural importance of why we should dehorn and castrate food animals. Horns are traditional in some breeds. Breed standards may require the presence of horns. Some breeds that require these are the Texas Longhorn, the Highland cow, which can be seen in the bottom right picture, and the White Park cattle. Many breeds of cattle and sheep are naturally hornless. This is called being polled. Therefore, they do not need to be dehorned or disbutted. In some areas, horns provide some sort of cultural significance. Hindus believe that cattle are sacred and they should be protected and revered. The top right image shows cattle in India who are seen to be dressed in brightly colored Hindu costumes. Cattle are often decorated and trained. Their horns are trained into strange shapes. In regards to castration, Americans prefer the taste of meat from a castrated animal. Meat from an intact male changes the flavor profile and causes the meat to be less tender and actually more chewy.
I'm Alexis Honeycutt. For current events for dehorning, the American Veterinary Medical Association, also abbreviated as the AMVA, recognizes that castration and dehorning of cattle are important for human and animal safety. When cattle are used for agricultural purposes, the American Veterinary Medical Association is suggesting that there is a need for research leading to new and improved techniques that reduce or eliminate pain and distress associated with castration and dehorning, which could improve any negative effects from castration and dehorning animals, which would include the animal suffering from pain. It would be unnecessary for them to have the castration and dehorning if there's new ways to eliminate the pain and distress. For current events for castration, a survey of U.S. members of the American Association of Bovine Practitioners and the Academy of Veterinary Consultants regarding castration methods has shown that surgical castration is the most common method used. Now, 1 in 5 veterinarians reported using an anesthetic or local anesthetic at the time of castration. Castration is critical when it comes to the safety of the livestock and ranch hands. That also includes any work animals. An aggressive animal is very dangerous. They can even kill dogs, work dogs. When castration does not occur, meat quality is reduced, which makes it sell for a lower price and lowers profit levels. If you look at the top image of the steer, which is a castrated male bull, you'll see he looks more muscular. That's probably due to him being castrated later. And you can see his meat, it's prime, and then the lower cow doesn't look as fat. He has top choice, which is a lower price demand. For dehorning livestock used in food production is very essential and necessary to protect the animals and handlers. Some of the ways that it protects the animals and handlers are reduce the risk of injury and bruising to other cattle. When bruising occurs, the meat that is affected is basically useless. It improves farm safety for the farmers and animal handlers, like I had previously stated, keeps horses and dogs safe. It prevents financial losses due to trimming the damaged carcass, and it also reduces space required for feeding in transit. For castration, castration of livestock is crucial in many ways, from health of the animal to the meat quality. Castration lowers testosterone levels in male cattle, pigs, and other livestock, which in turn reduces aggressiveness, making for safer conditions for both the livestock and the workers. Castration also maintains the pH of meat. Uncastrated pigs, which are called boars, can have what's called boar taint, where the meat smells of excess sex hormones. So it smells like testosterone and other hormones that the testicles are producing. It's not sold because the meat smells really bad, so that causes losing of profits. If you look at the image I provided, that's banding castration. So they just put that little instrument over the testicles, and the band pops off, and it effectively castrates them. For castration part 2, castrating livestock reduces unintended breeding, which in turn can control genetics, which can affect meat quality and help control population of the herd. Castration of livestock makes the meat more profitable due to reducing testosterone levels in the animal. Lower testosterone levels in the meat makes it more tender, marbled with fat, which fetches a higher price per carcass. If you look at my top image, that is a bull, which is an intact male, and then on bottom is the steer, which is basically a cow that has been castrated. You can tell the top one's a lot more muscular, and the bottom is more fat. It's more marbled.
So, I'm Sarah Stevens, talking about knowledge. So, for dehorning, this is a process in which the horns are removed from the livestock. This is done on a lot of different animals, such as cattle, sheep, goats, and all of these animals are sometimes horned for economic and safety reasons. Castration is the bilateral orchidectomy, in which the excision in both testes, and chemical castration uses pharmaceutical drugs to deactivate testes. This is done on very similar animals as dehorning. These include animals such as male sheep, cattle, goats, and pigs. So, there's a lot of different reasons as to why we would dehorn and castrate animals. So, for dehorning, this reduces the risk of injury or bruising to other herd mates. This can stop from them putting injuries to the other animals' udders, their flanks, and their eyes. And it also dehorned animals are much less dangerous to handle and to transport. So it puts the other handlers and the other cattle at much lower risk of being injured. Also, when animals are dehorned, they exhibit much less aggressive behavior with individual dominance. For castration, there's a lot of reasons why people castrate their animals too, and it stops the production of male hormones. It also helps to prevent unplanned mating and decrease aggression, much like dehorning. It also helps to obtain price premiums and or avoid price discounts from feedlots and meat packers. It also decreases the cost of managing bulls overall. So there's a lot of different ways in which we can make the process safe if they are going to dehorn or castrate animals. So before dehorning, you want to make sure that all the equipment is sterile. Make sure to sharpen all of the instruments. And then during, it's really important to make sure that the fly activity is at a minimum, and to try avoiding dusty or wet days, and to cut cleanly through the bone instead of crushing it. After you dehorn an animal, it's important to treat wounds with coagulant powder, and then to monitor physically dehorned animals for other or any signs of infection that they may get. So some processes for castration in order to make sure that it's safe. So before, kind of like dehorning, you want to make sure that all the equipment is sterile. You want to make sure that the calf's scrotum and all of the surrounding area of it is clean. And it's really important to make sure that if you're going to do castration, you do it at the earliest age possible on this animal. And also, like dehorning, you want to sharpen all the instruments and make sure that everything is clean and has a clean cut too. And then during castration, you want to make sure that there's a clean, dry environment, and also try to avoid the dusty or wet days, and like dehorning, make sure that the fly activity is at a minimum. Make sure that there's not too many around, and that it's just a really clean environment for the animals. And then after, it's important to monitor the calves for bleeding and other signs of infection. So those are both kind of the same. You just want to overall make sure that the animal is healthy and doesn't get any kind of infections or problems after it is done. So for opinion, dehorning and castration on food animals is absolutely necessary. There are so many benefits that go along with doing this. By castration, we are then able to have more population control, less aggression, decrease in testosterone levels, and much more. Like castration, dehorning is very beneficial as well. It helps by avoiding health risks to other animals and herders, prevent financial loss, and it overall leads to a much safer environment. So overall, dehorning and castration on food animals is very important, and it's a very smart decision. And then here is our work